far as the bilateral meeting between US President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is concerned. Donald Trump announced that India and the US have agreed to work together to build the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor. He's called it one of the greatest trade routes. He's also said that the route will operate from Israel to Italy and onward to the United States of America. Trump has said that the IMEC is in fact working to help build one of the greatest trade routes in all of history. It will run from India to Israel to Italy and onwards to the United States of America, connecting partners through roads, railways and even via undersea cables. The IMEC of course comprises an eastern corridor connecting India to the Gulf region and a northern corridor connecting the Gulf region to Europe. It will include a railway and a ship transit network of including road transport routes as well. An MOU on the IMEC was signed by India, US, Saudi Arabia, UAE, the European Union, particularly Italy, France and Germany on the sidelines of the G20 summit in India in 2023. It of course seeks to mobilize $600 billion by 2027 to address infrastructure gaps in the partner countries. Meanwhile, the corridor will also drive a significant increase in trade demand and supply across the region, reducing transaction costs and creating fresh job opportunities. The IMEC will facilitate industrial development and improve access to the European market, furthering India's supply chain and its access to all of this through improved logistical services. Let's in fact listen into what Trump had said earlier.
Leader by quite a bit. Finally, we agreed to work together to help build one of the greatest trade routes in all of history. It will run from India to Israel to Italy and onward to the United States, connecting our partners by ports, railways, and undersea cables, many undersea cables. It's a big development. It's a lot of money going to be spent, and we've already spent some, but we're going to be spending a lot more in order to stay advanced and stay the leader. I'm pleased to report that with today's announcements, the friendship between the United States and India is the strongest I believe it's ever been. I think our relationship is the best it's ever been between two leaders of the two countries.
All right, there, of course, viewers, you've heard what exactly Donald Trump has had to say, but let's also take a look at what exactly is the IMEC, why does it matter, what are the benefits, and what are some of the very key components. First up, what exactly is the IMEC? You can see the picture over here is from the G20 summit in September 2023 when this agreement was inked. It's of course a very important project as it passes through Marseille in the Mediterranean Sea as well. Prime Minister Modi just visited the spot in France. It's in fact the second largest city in France. So meanwhile, here, of course, as I was referring to the photograph, on 9 September 2023, the Memorandum of Understanding was signed during the G20 summit that was held in New Delhi. The corridor, in fact, intends to enhance connectivity, increase efficiency, reduce costs, and also secure regional supply chains as well. But that's not all. It will comprise of two separate corridors, the East Corridor, that is of course connecting India to the Gulf states, and the Northern Corridor connecting the Gulf states to Europe and beyond as well. The IMEC of course seeks to mobilize $600 billion, especially when it comes to infrastructure and filling those infrastructure gaps in these member states. It primarily aims to integrate India, Europe and the Middle East through UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel and the European Union. So we've taken a look at what exactly is the IMEC. Let's also take a look at why it matters. One, increased trade and investment. The IMEC would create a new trade route between India, Middle East and Europe, which would reduce transportation costs and time as well. So this is of course a very ambitious project that seeks to improve the logistics in these particular countries. Of course, speaking of improved connectivity, the IMEC would involve the construction of new roads, railways, ports, which would improve connectivity between all these three regions and enhancing trade. Thirdly, increased energy security. This is also a major source of oil. The Middle East is a major source of oil and gas for India in particular, and the IMEC would provide a way to transport these resources more effectively. Number 4, reduced regional tensions. The Middle East is of course a volatile region. We've been seeing the war that has taken place over there since October 2023. The IMEC could in fact help to promote peace and stability by increasing economic interdependence between all the countries that are involved in this project. Of course, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel in particular as well. Let's take a look at some of the key components. Physical infrastructure being one. It includes development of roads, railways and ports as well. Let's take a look at the second component. It also includes the development of, I've already mentioned this, let's move on to the next point as well. We've seen that it will try to fill in those infrastructure gaps, but also bring in policy reforms, involve policy reforms to facilitate trade and investments as well. That is something that is also being touted as far as this is concerned. Digital connectivity is another very crucial aspect. It's looking at promoting and improving communication and cooperation between all of these states, especially through digital means. Green energy. We've all seen the promotion and development of green energy over the last couple of years. Of course, Trump just recently pulled out of the Paris Agreement, so where that will head remains to be seen. But as far as benefits are concerned, increased trade, increased investments amongst all the member countries that are of course part of this deal. Another key benefit is reduced transportation costs, of course, and time as well, considering the seamless movement of goods that can take place through this corridor. But also another key aspect of the benefits are increased connectivity between the three regions. It is in fact quite a costly affair to transport goods from India to Europe, so streamlining this would in fact improve upon all of this. But that's not all. It's also touted to be a challenger to the BRI, the China's Belt and Road Initiative. Meanwhile, the benefits are also increased economic growth and development as well. So the more money that is pumped in, the more development, the more growth, the more jobs as well that can be created. So that's all we have as far as understanding the IMEC is concerned. But before I take this across with the guests joining us, I also have open on my screen a map. If we can reflect that to our viewers so that they can also gain an idea as to what exactly does this concern. Yes, if we can just take it full screen and show our viewers in detail so that they can read out the ports that are also marked as well. This is of course the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. Here of course we have Mumbai, which is marked out, one of our largest ports. Then from Mumbai, the goods will be shipped over to Jebel Ali port in the UAE. The dotted line of course is indicative of a sea route. Meanwhile, this is of course also showcasing a rail route as well from Jebel Ali in the UAE to Al Guwaifat in the United Arab Emirates. From there, the rail route moves on to Harat in Saudi Arabia, then to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, then to Al Haditha in Saudi Arabia, which is of course another crucial point. Then from there the goods will move to Haifa in Israel, which is another port, and from there it moves on to Piraeus in Greece. And of course now Donald Trump is looking at increasing this connectivity even further from Europe to the United States of America. Meanwhile, joining us on the broadcast is Major General Sudhakarji, geopolitical expert. We also have with us Himanshu Bhatt, senior journalist. Major General Sudhakarji, I'd like to go across to you. It's of course a very crucial facet of what exactly was discussed between Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well as US President Donald Trump. I mentioned this before over the course of our discussions throughout the day that it also took center stage during the Modi-Macron meet, especially considering considering the fact that Prime Minister Modi also visited Marseille in France, which is the second largest city over there and also one of their most vital ports. So where do we see this project heading? We've seen that it was in limbo over the last 2 years, because right after the inking of this vision, the war in the Middle East had broken out.
Yeah, thank you for getting me to your show on a phone-up, and we are there in the morning show although. IMEC, conceptually speaking, it is a game changer in 21st century, enhancing the connectivity between India to Europe, and now Donald Trump has added America as well. So this has to be understood in the perspective that there is a force which is actually challenging the very existence of America as a superpower. There is also a force which is dominating by virtue of the factor of geoeconomics. We are in 21st century. In 20th century, it was geopolitics which played a vital role. They are bipolar world. Today, USA is trying to restore or reassert its authority as a unipolar superpower, although we are mindful of the fact that it has shown adequate symptoms and visible spectrum of activities of declining power. Now, China is the biggest threat in the global order today. So as this being an Asia century, China is a growing economy, although its economy is going through a very challenging phase. Yet, the BRI project, which is essentially meant for trade and for safe and secure corridor of energy security, China has got the longest distance which is to be traversed to ensure uninterrupted supply of energy or the fossil fuel, be it from the Middle East or from Africa or from elsewhere. It has to go through the sea lanes of communication, and when its products, almost 64% of its products, they actually transit through the maritime, and rest of it is through the continental, that is the land segment. So therefore, the way it is expanding all over globally, it is posing a big challenge so as to rejuvenate its Middle Kingdom concept and challenge the global supremacy which USA as a superpower is enjoying. So China is claiming a bipolar world, USA is asserting itself to be a unipolar superpower. This is the dynamic, and the multipolarity is actually expanding by the day. Under these prevailing circumstances, IMEC is one which is going to not only enhance the connectivity between the South Asia through the Middle East to Europe and beyond to America, but also going to pose a big challenge and counter so as to contain the influencing sphere of the BRI of China in the Middle East and towards Europe. Back to you, Priya.
Indeed, and I'd like to take forward the last point that you mentioned, the counter to the BRI, with Himanshu Bhatt, who's also with us live. Sir, thank you so much for your patience. Something that Major General Sudhakar ji has mentioned right now, IMEC is touted to be a direct counter to BRI. We've seen China, in fact, scale up in its investments in several countries, especially in Central Asia, especially in Africa as well, and even South America, something that India is also looking at countering. But what do you make of the IMEC and its potential to counter the Belt and Road Initiative of China?
In pragmatic, practical sense, I'll tell you a couple of reasons. One is, if India wants to be in the supply chain hub, if the world wants to divert its supply chain, they need a specific route, and IMEC will do wonders for them on one side of the world. Now see, when we are talking in terms of India to Middle East to Europe and then to USA, we are talking a logistic cost which is very heavy. Now see, if it is rail, if it is sea, if it is road, whatever it is. Now let's say, suppose, the logistic cost on one side in Bharat works up to about 12 to 14%. Now with these routes coming up of 4,500 kilometers, if that operates properly, what happens is the logistic cost comes down to about 8%. Now that will make Indian products, or that will make the supply chains to be totally integrated with Indian products. And that will make them worldwide competitive. Now that's a direct counter to what BRI has been trying to do. The models are different. BRI has been squeezing smaller countries, and that's why you have Global South. Global South standing along with Bharat, and Bharat always stays Global South along with them. So just imagine a particular product made in India. I'm just taking one example. Made in India being shipped from Mumbai port to UAE can reach via Haifa. And don't forget that Haifa has an Indian investment component of 80%. We have made those provisions. And then to Piraeus in Greece. And why Trump talked only about Italy in Europe? He talked about Israel, he talked about India, and he did not give any other names. But what he implied was, through to America, where if you want to establish the total supply chain, it's a long-term project, all right. But then the dreams are always realized in such a case. For 2 years, it was in a limbo because of the Middle East war. But now suppose what happens that, Trump has been floating the idea of taking over Gaza. Now if suppose, let's say, Trump takes over Gaza as a US territory, mind my words, US territory. And if he realizes that, it will be in the Middle East for the first time something of US territory being available. And in that case, this Haifa port assumes double significance. And so, this logistic cost along with the supply chain integration, what we are looking at. And that's why this IMEC can be a game changer for the coming 50 years. And if Bharat wants to see itself a developed economy and India-U.S. business to go up to 500 billions by 2030, that means $500 billion we are talking of. In that case, India needs to be an economy of $7 to $8 trillion. And for that, what will you need? You will need production, you will need supply chains, you will need logistic costs to come down. And this will work wonders for it if it genuinely pursued now in this coming 4 years of Trump administration. Because in the Biden administration, what happened was the Middle East war started and that made it totally unviable. But now with this Trump administration, we are seeing the end of it. And I will not be surprised if a war footing work is done on the eastern side of the IMEC corridor. And in a couple of years, we are seeing the goods being transported here.
Indeed, I'd like to thank you, sir, as well as Major General Sudhakarji for taking out time, sitting with us on the broadcast, of course, discussing this very important aspect of what exactly was discussed between the two leaders. But I'd also like to shed some light on another aspect of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States of America. We all know that Elon Musk, the founder and CEO of Tesla, had met Prime Minister Modi along with his girlfriend Shivon Zilis and 3 of his children in Washington. You can see those visuals on your screens. This meeting had taken place at Blair House. And we're getting to know some details about the gifts that were given by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Musk's children. 3 books: The Crescent Moon by Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore, The Great R.K. Narayan Collection, and Pandit Vishnu Sharma's Panchtantra. In fact, you can see those pictures that are flashing on your screens. Musk's children can also be seen reading some of these books. Prime Minister, of course, said that he had a very good meeting with Musk, who is, of course, in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency in the United States of America, which has been tasked by US President Donald Trump to carry out minimum government and maximum governance, is what the Prime Minister, as Prime Minister Modi puts it. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, of course, presented Prime Minister Modi with a space relic, a gift. And this object was engraved with the words Starship Flight Test 5th October, Starship Flight Test 5, October 12, 2024. Meanwhile, I'd like to draw attention to some of the gifts that Prime Minister Modi had given to the kids. I have the photo open on my screen over here. If our team upstairs can also flash it to our viewers. Yes, right there you can see, of course, all smiles as the PM was handing out the gifts yesterday. Here, of course, all smiles as the children are reading this and drawing attention, in fact, to this book over here. This is The Crescent Moon by Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore, and here, of course, you can catch a glimpse of where I am moving my cursor, the Panchtantra by Pandit Vishnu Sharma. So, these, of course, were some of the gifts that were exchanged. Elon Musk also, in fact, gave a memento.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.